everyone, Catweazle here, welcome to the channel and welcome back to our new playthrough of Secrets of the Lost Tomb, where we're doing the scenario the Pharaoh with the blue eyes, and this is turn 1. So let's get started. But first of all, I did promise I would go through this rather large tile here and explain what it is. It's called the Journey to the Tomb tile, and it's in order to make it a little more difficult, a little more challenging. And what you do is, it's got two sides. It's got a day side and a night side. The day side is relatively benign. The night side is a little bit more difficult. We're going to use the day side because this is a blind playthrough and I haven't played the game before. The whole idea is your heroes are going to go to and from the tomb using this tile. Now, as well as using up actions, and actions are very precious because we do have the comic track timer, it's also going to force us to roll on a couple of tables here. And it's just meant to show the difficulties in getting to and from the tomb. Once we've gone through this tile, we will actually go to the tomb entrance here. So we're doing the trip to the tomb essentially in this first part of this turn. So let's start with our first player, who's going to be Heidi. So what Heidi will do is she immediately goes to the seaplane, which is here, and that will cost her 1 action. So we'll take one of her action tokens, we will drop it, then struggle to get it out of here, then we will put it there, and it has been used. When she does that, she's got to roll on the encounter chart, which is in red here. So we're going to roll a d6. What I will do is I will use the dice that come with the game. Now, they're a bit difficult to see, so I'm going to have to zoom in, and we'll see how we go on. If it gets too much of a pain, what I'll do is I'll go back to standard d6s. But let's just zoom in, won't be a second. So hopefully we'll be able to see it when it comes through the dice tower. So there we go, and we get a 4. Yes, we can see that, that's pretty cool. So we need to go back to the encounter chart and see what a 4 is. And here we are at the encounter chart. So a 4 on the encounter chart is scared. So it's 1d3 courage that we'd lose. So let's get back to the dice tower and see how much courage that Heidi is going to lose. And here we are back at the dice tower, so may as well use this again. Give it a roll, and we get a 3. So 1 to 2 would be 1. Remember, it's a d3. So 1 and 2 are 1, 3 and 4 are 2, and 5 and 6 are 3. So she's lost 2 courage. So let's zoom out and take that off her player area. So she goes back to 0 courage, unfortunately. They're a bit tight, these. So there we go. So she's back to 0 courage. So that is her first action. Next up, we will have James T. Temple. And here we are with James. Exactly the same thing. James goes down here to where the seaplane is, and he has to roll on the encounter chart. So come on, James, something good. Oh, he gets a 5. He gets a 5. And a 5 on here is nothing happened. So that's brilliant for James. He's managed to get to the seaplane, and he has used up an action to do that. What we do with each hero is they do a single action each. So you don't do all 3 actions and move on to the next hero. They do an action each. So he's got there, no problems whatsoever. He's a star. So let's see how Christopher goes on. And here we are with Christopher. So Christopher's going to do exactly the same thing. He's going to get down here to the seaplane, and let's see how he goes on. So let's roll. And he gets a 1. And he's been snake bit. which means he's been poisoned. So that means I do get to show you what a status effect card is. Bear with me a moment and I will find the poisoned card. Won't be a moment. Right, so here we are with a poisoned card. They're all the same, so you don't have to pick them randomly. So, status effect, poisoned, physical, negative. So, upkeep, he will lose 2 health. Now, upkeep is during the tomb phase. And on the upkeep, he will roll a die. On a 1, he will discard it, but he cannot re-roll it. So, we would very much like to get rid of this. But, as it stands, it is currently on his player area. So, unfortunately, Heidi, she scared herself silly getting to the seaplane. James, nothing phases James. He just wandered through the jungle, no problems. And poor old Christopher got bit by a snake. So they've all made it to the seaplane, however. Now they're going to look to actually get back to the tomb. So that means we go back to Heidi and she will take her second action. Whoop, just before we do that, remember to flick Chris's action over. Okay, let's get back to Heidi. And here we are with Heidi. Now, there's a couple of things Heidi can do now. She can either use this action chart down here, where she can spend an action to do various things, or she can actually move directly to the tomb entrance. Let's just go through what the actions that she can take on the journey to the tomb tile are before we make our mind up. So we're on the day side of the journey to the tomb tile. So that means we could spend an action to remove all status effects. Well, she doesn't currently have one, so she's not going to do that. She could regain all lost starting items, drawing either from the discard pile or the item deck. Recharge all uses of starting items, and if any of the items are unavailable, she can draw a replacement. But we haven't lost anything, so we're fine. She could revert to her starting health. Well, she's already at a starting health. She could also revert to 0 courage, but if you remember, she's already at 0 courage, so that's no good. She could also place a trap token on any one journey to the tomb space. If a creature other than the Silverback Ancient is placed on or moves onto a space with a trap token, it is killed. If the Silverback Ancient one does actually trigger the trap token, it will lose 10 health. So it won't get killed outright, it will lose 10 health. Just to explain that, another thing that we'll be doing with the journey to the tomb tile is it will occasionally spawn monsters. So most of the time it will be spawning normal monsters, but if you just look at the top here, when the comic track gets to 5, it will spawn the Silverback Ancient monster, and that's a bit of a nasty. So we would prefer to avoid that monster if we can possibly do so. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to place a trap token, because this, even though when we move off this tile and we go into the actual tomb, this tile sort of stays here. And as part of the tomb phase, we'll be rolling a die. And on a 1, 2 or a 3, one of those normal monsters will spawn somewhere on here. Once it spawns on here, every tomb phase thereafter, it will start moving towards the tomb entrance. So essentially, this becomes a monster generator. So the more we roll 1, 2 or 3s during the tomb phase, the more monsters come on here and they all start moving into the tomb, which will be bad news for us. Because of that, we are actually going to place a trap token on here. So let's get a trap token. These are the trap tokens. So hopefully we'll be able to stop a few nasty monsters from actually sandbagging us in the tomb. So we'll place one of these on here. So we'll just put it here on space 2 because it's easy to see. So that is what she's done with her second action. So we'll turn that over. But as you can see, we are already losing actions hand over fist. So this is why this makes it more difficult. If we were starting the game normally, we'd have just gone straight onto the tomb entrance tile here and we'd have started exploring and everything and we'd be well into it. This is making us basically lose our first turn, is what it's doing. So, plus, we're having to roll on the encounter chart. So that's a bit of a blow. But we have managed to put one of these tokens on here, and hopefully that will catch one or two of these monsters. So that's what she has done with her second action. She's used the action table here, and she has activated a trap. So hopefully that will cover us. Right, so that is it for her. Next up is James T. Temple. And here we are with James. If you remember, James got to the seaplane with no problems whatsoever. So what's he going to do? So he doesn't need to remove any status effects, he's fine. He doesn't need to restore any of his starting items or anything. He doesn't need to heal back to full health. And he doesn't need to revert to 0 courage because he's on +1. So what he is going to do is he's going to place a trap as well. So he's going to put a trap on space 5. In fact, I think we'll change that space 2 trap as well. We'll put that on 4. So space 5 and space 4 have got traps on them. The reason these have got numbers on, if you recall, I said like on a 1, 2 or 3 we will generate a monster and it will go onto this tile. We do roll another die and it'll say which actual square it goes on. So let's fill up, you know, if we're going to fill up squares, let's fill up these. Then we're guaranteed, hopefully, that at least one monster is going to blunder into them. If I put it on 2, we may have rolled that die and put the monster on space 3, in which case it would have missed the actual it would have missed the actual tomb space and not got killed. So we'll put them on 4 and 5. So that is it for James. And we have to turn his action round. So there we go. And he has now spent 2 actions. That's it for James. Next up is Christopher St. George. And here we are with Chris. We're going to have to do something with Chris, because if you remember, he got that status effect. He got poisoned. So let's go back to the actual table, and we can remove all status effects. We are going to have to do that, because poisoned is particularly nasty, and we do not want to be rolling every upkeep and taking 2 health damage. So, in fact, I don't think we even roll, we just take 2 health damage. So we don't want that. We're going to have to use an action to get rid of that. So we will do that. Unfortunately, it means we cannot place another trap. So that is pretty much a wasted action, unfortunately. So yes, we will get rid of poisoned. Everybody has got 1 action left. So let's pop back around to Heidi and see what she's going to do with her final action. And here we are with Heidi. What is she going to do with her final action? Well, she is actually going to enter the tomb. So we've got into the tomb. Hurrah! So there we go. She is actually in the tomb now. And that is her final action. Remember, I'm only using 3 actions each. Normally when you use 3 heroes you would get 4, but I'm only using 3. So there we go. She's in the tomb. Let's see what James is going to do. And here we are with James. No surprise, James is also going to go into the tomb. So he has gone in there with Heidi. That is his final action. So we'll flick that over. And let's move on to Christopher St. George. And here we are with Chris. What's Chris going to do? Well, Chris isn't actually going to go into the tomb this turn. He too is going to lay a trap. And he's going to put it there on space 6. So we've laid a few traps for the monsters that might spawn. Additionally, we do know that the great silverback, whatever it's called, what's it called? Let's have a look. Yep, the silverback ancient. Once we get to 5 on the comic track, this guy will come out. So what we've got to make sure is we knock a few sort of health off him. He has got 20 health. So by getting 3 of these on here, remember, we'll only minus 10 health for each trap it wanders into. So with 3 on the board, I think the traps will do for him. I hope so. We shall see. We may roll a 6 and he may only get 1 trap. So we'll have to see. But yes, we want to definitely make sure that this guy doesn't cause us any problems. So let's put him back there. And that is it for Chris. He spent his final action to lay a trap. He isn't in the tomb yet, but we'll see if we can get him into the tomb next turn. So that is it for the adventurer phase. That means we move into the tomb phase. And here we are at the tomb phase. So let's get the tomb deck. It's this deck here. We will give it a quick shuffle and a quick cut. I have shuffled it before, but let's do it again. And let's see what we've got. Oh no, we've got a red one, which is bad. So let's have a look. Black Ice, White Death. Tomb effect, all. Take double damage from creatures and effects this tomb phase. Well, that's not too bad because we haven't got any creatures. So, pretty cool. We've got away with this one. So 2 is move creatures. We've got no creatures. We haven't spawned any. Creature combat. We've got no creatures. 4, we will spawn creatures, but we can only spawn creatures on tiles that have got a red border. We have no tiles with a red border, so we will not spawn any creatures. Besides, you know... Oh, I thought that said 0. It says 2, doesn't it? So, yes, we don't have to spawn 2 normal creatures on level 1 because there's nowhere to spawn them. Then we move into the upkeep. So we're looking for various things that need upkeep. So we'll have to have a look at each of our players and let's see if they've got any abilities or any items that require upkeep. Won't be a moment. Hello, I'm back. There's only one item that our heroes have that requires any sort of upkeep, and that is the Tommy gun. But we don't actually have to roll on it. I'll just explain why. It does say upkeep, roll a die on a 1 or 2 discard, but it only counts when this has been exhausted. Essentially, you've got to use it, yeah? This is meant to sort of simulate when it runs out of ammunition. So, runs out of ammunition on a 1 or a 2 and it's useless, so you discard it. But we haven't actually used it, yes? So, we don't have to roll in this case. If we had used it, we would have exhausted it after use. That doesn't mean it's one use. You can exhaust it during your turn and use it several times. It's just when it gets to the upkeep. It's just a reminder that when you get to upkeep, you have to do the roll to see if it's run out of ammunition. We haven't used it, so we do not have to do the roll. That's the only one that would normally have an upkeep roll, but as I say, it only applies when you've actually used it and shot some bullets out of it, and we haven't. So we'll put that back on Chris's player area. And because of that, we've been through all our items. We didn't have to roll for anything. That is fine. There is one more thing we've got to do at upkeep, and that is to do with the Journey to the Tomb tile. We have to roll 1 die. On a 1, 2 or a 3, we will generate a normal monster. So let's do the roll. Come on. We get a 3, unfortunately, so that means we do generate a monster. Now, we've had to pick out, let's just get rid of that, we had to pick out a set number of monsters. The tile tells us to bring them out, so we've got things like gorillas and snakes and wolves and all this sort of thing. So we get those. We'll do a quick shuffle and a quick cut, and then we'll just pick one off the bottom. So there we go. What's on the bottom is a quest anaconda. So it's a beast. And what happens? Oh, when killed, you actually get an item off it, so that's pretty good. You probably have to cut it open and find out what it's been swallowing. So it's got 2 movement. You lose a courage when you face it. It's got 2 combat die. It's got 1 armor, 5 health. You do not have to make an evade check to get past it, and it will give you 3 soul shards if you kill it. Let's find where it's going. So we'll put that down there. And we've got to roll for which part of the tile it's going on. And we've got a 2. So I shouldn't have moved that trap. It actually goes here, so we'll just leave it here. And what's going to happen is every subsequent tomb phase, it's going to start moving, yeah? And it's going to try and get to here. So it'll just move along here. As soon as it gets here, then it'll move here. And then it'll start chasing us all through the tomb. But as it is, it's here. It is eventually going to hit one of these. So I don't think we're going to have any problems with it. But ideally, I'd like these to stay here for the silverback. But if we get too many of these random monsters, then they're going to use all these up. But we may as well lay the traps while we've got a chance. So that's what we've done. So that is the end of upkeep. We've got a quest anaconda on the journey to the tomb tile. Then search. Remember our search tokens. I'll just get one off Heidi here. Everybody's got one of these search tokens. Well, what that means is we've got to rotate them once. So even though we haven't searched, it gets rotated. So we're on the yellow search, which if you remember is a bit more dangerous. Then we'll go on to red, which is very dangerous, and then we'll go back to green again. But as it is, everybody is now on the yellow search. So that's a bit unfortunate. I'll just go across and rotate all those, and then I'll be right back. Okay, all those have been rotated. And then finally, what we've got to do is we've got to move the comic track up by 1. So we've gone from 0 to 1. Remember, once we get to 6, Raz, the Pharaoh with the blue eyes, he's going to come out and start like beating our heads in. Even when we get to 5, that horrible silver black elite gorilla's going to come out. So the journey to the tomb tile has wasted a complete turn for us. We haven't even got everybody into the actual tomb yet. We've already got a monster out, and we have used up 9 actions to do that. Those were 9 actions that normally we'd be searching the tomb with. Yeah, we'd be exploring and everything, because we've got to find those 3 artifacts. What I'll do next turn is we will start exploring the tomb properly, and then I will go through the scenario in a bit more detail. Not much point now because we've only just got to the tomb. So hopefully what we'll do next turn is actually start exploring, trying to find these artifacts that we need to defeat the Pharaoh with the blue eyes. Hopefully Chris will get off his arse and he'll actually get into the tomb as well. And hopefully we can start cracking on. But I hope you see what the journey to the tomb tile does. Makes you use up actions, and you can get nasty things that happen to you. You've got to spend extra actions to get rid of them. It's also a monster generator, so we're going to have monsters sort of trying to follow us in, as well as the monsters that we're going to start generating when we're actually exploring the tomb. So we're going to have to get a move on. We are already at 1 on the comic track. We've got till 5, the silverback gorilla comes out, and we've got till 6 on the comic track, and then Raz comes out himself. So already we are up against it. So there we have it for turn 1. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope I haven't made too many errors. If I have, please let me know and I'll do my best to fix them. But hopefully that isn't the case. Oh, may as well discard this. So discard that, put this back. So there we are. That is it for turn 1. And we have done the journey to the tomb tile. Hopefully we'll really get into it next turn and we can start doing some exploration. But as it is, we're up against it. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the views, thanks for all the likes, and thanks for all the subscriptions. It is much appreciated. Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody who's gone across to Board Game Links to upvote the site, as ever. Thank you very much. And to everybody on BGG who's made any comments or up-thumbed any of the videos on there. Thank you very much as well. And, oh yes, as ever, if I've cocked up, made any errors, missed anything out, please let me know in the comments and I will do my best to fix them. But as it is, I hope you enjoyed turn 1 and that you will join me for turn 2. But until then, this is me, Catweazle, signing off. Toodaloo.